I couldn't rely on the world to make me happy. I couldn't rely on my husband, my loving spouse, to make me happy. That was going to boil down to me stepping it up and realizing what I needed to do to become the best version of myself. And that's not going to happen if I don't show up.
You've ever struggled with depression, anxiety, thinking about your purpose in life, or honestly just fitting in day to day, then this episode, I hope, is going to speak to you directly. Welcome back to the Journey to Legacy podcast. Today's episode is actually a throwback from a couple of years ago. I'm going to start rewinding back and tossing in some of the episodes that were the most moving to me, and I believe are going to be the most moving to you as we get more and more new listeners and audience members. I want to bring back some of this old message that maybe they didn't get a chance to hear yet, and today is one of them. I want to introduce you to Miss Justine Mader, who is an amazing life coach, motivational speaker, expert in the personal development space. You're really going to enjoy this episode. I just finished re-listening to myself, so I figured let's go ahead and bring it to the audience. Back here today in 2025, so let's go ahead and rewind back all the way to 2020 when we recorded this episode, and everything still remains true and relevant today. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Justine, hey, thanks for joining me. How are you?
Oh, Wayne, thank you so much for the just genuine introduction. And I'm so excited to spend the time with you and your listeners today and really dig into why showing up for yourself is so important, whether it is life or business. And this material is so important for anyone because truly the biggest part of life and the things that we relate to is the fact that we all are, journeying towards something. We all have life happening for us, and the power of mindset and all of those things are just totally passion-based material for me. So I'm just so grateful to be with you here today, Wayne. It's going to be great.
It's absolutely my pleasure. I'm so excited. Immediately when you said, right, life is happening for us, right, that is immediately just an example of a choice in mindset, right? And right now when we're recording this, we're still going through the whole coronavirus pandemic, and I think it's more important than ever for people to understand that, right? That see life as it's happening for you, not to you. I'm sure, have you been talking about that exact thing with a lot of your clients?
So much so. I love that was a part that you highlighted here, Wayne, because it's inevitable that we will have either a negative impacting force come towards us, or there'll be, someone else is going through a hardship that brings that negative energy. It's nothing to scoff at. It's nothing to be afraid of. And negative opportunities actually create positive impact. And what I would like to go a little bit deeper with that is that when negative things happen, they teach us so many lessons. So for people that are going through this struggle, this virus, this global pandemic that we're experiencing, Wayne, like you said, there's been hardships all across the board, life, business, you name it, people have been affected. And so when we look at what has been happening, some of the negative parts are actually going to be responsible for the most positive action that's ever been taken. And so I'm one of those people that loves to look at what is actually happening. Have people, lost their jobs, but actually started pursuing what they've been wanting to do for 15 years?
So true.
The one moment where they were looking for, a sign, an opportunity, or, take the business idea. They've already got a business and, maybe they're, just waiting for that one chance. And then all of a sudden it's like, this is now. And, it doesn't always have to be with business. I don't know if all of your listeners are that way, but I know for some of my clients, Wayne, is that, in life, it's the same thing. That time that you wanted to spend with your kids, we're on mandatory stay at home right now. And so it's one of those things where if you can just soak in the time, the presence, the opportunity that is before you to take anything that is happening and use it to fuel whatever it is in your life, in your business, in your relationships, in your dreams. Like you said, earlier in our conversation, where are you going? What are your goals? What's your why? And that leads into so many other conversations. But at the same time, it all starts with understanding that things are happening powerfully for you every day.
So true, right? Whether it's a positive or a negative, right, that's happening outside of us, see it as an opportunity, right, that it's actually happening for you, right? Maybe just in the moment it seems positive or negative.
Yes,
Who knows what's going to happen in the future? I think it's funny even to think about, like, right now something seems positive. How do you know that that's actually going to stay positive, right? If you think in that manner, then it's a lot easier to realize, okay, a seemingly negative situation can turn positive as well.
Correct. Huge point you made there. Wayne. I love that so much.
Nice. I appreciate it. So everybody, just like how Justine said, today we're talking all about showing up for yourself, right? Both Justine, you and I think we like to be in the sort of the leadership space, right? Helping people to lead others, but foremost lead themselves. And that's where all of this starts, right? So let's dive on into this topic of showing up for yourself. And so the first thing that we sort of talked about was, to be able to just get out of bed every single day, to be able to lead every single day, you need to understand why you're doing it and a little bit about your own values, right? So you can talk a little bit just on the importance of understanding your values and maybe even just what exactly is your quote unquote, your why behind it.
Absolutely. No. And I love that we relate on this subject so deeply, Wayne. It was so easy for us to come up with a topic for a podcast and to chat with you guys. We were so excited because it was something that we were like, this needs to be one of the subjects. And so when we're talking about showing up for yourself, I relate it to myself personally. I can't speak for anyone else besides myself. I let my clients, I let everybody else speak for themselves. But when it comes to me and what changed my life and my story, a huge part of it was that I was going to take that chance on me. I couldn't rely on the world to make me happy. I couldn't rely on my husband, my loving spouse, to make me happy. That was going to boil down to me stepping it up and realizing what I needed to do to become the best version of myself. And that's not going to happen if I don't show up. If I don't get out of bed, if I don't go and be that person that God made me to be. I believe that. And I believe that when I'm given a day and I wake up, my eyes are open and I'm, not at Judgment Day, I need to get going. I got stuff to do. And so when, and not every morning do I wake up like that, guys. I don't. I'm raising my hand here if you're not watching, but it's the truth. It happens. We're human. And that's the beautiful part of this, is because even as a leader, for both Wayne and I, we're not saying we're perfect. We're not saying we got it figured out, but we're here to share the power and strength that we've developed through our experiences, through our trainings, our courses, our leadership development with you guys, because these are some of the tools that we found. And so when I show up because I need to take accountability for my happiness, for my success. And that boils back to your why. And so that was one of the points that Wayne mentioned here for us to chat about, is what is your why? Do you know your deepest why? And that can sometimes take you to places you may not want to go, places you were hurt, because maybe you thought that you just wanted to, maybe they didn't, what I'm trying to say is that maybe there was a time where you were hurt. Maybe there was a time where you were not in your best place. And so when you think of your goals, you're like, I'm going to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. Worry about proving you right. Yeah. That's where you can take. So when you're doing that reflection, right, and understanding that self-awareness of who you are, what you're all about, and where you're going and why you're doing it, those little human imperfections are going to come out, and that's okay. That's beautiful. That's where that negative, maybe that unfortunate traumatic circumstance that happened to you is going to turn into an amazing positive opportunity for you to prove yourself right. And that's where that what if came in, that Wayne mentioned. That what if you were right? What would that mean for you?
I mean, beautiful. So it sounds to me that maybe, does that stem from your actual why for yourself, all around this accountability and doing it for yourself? Where'd you sort of start that mindset maybe?
That's a super good question. I think it was probably an innately part of who I am. I came from a large family, And I'm an introvert, funny enough. I do lives and all sorts of videos and tutorials and stuff, but I am an introvert by nature. And so, as a child, it was one of those things for me that I didn't necessarily put out. I didn't preach about what I was going to do. I just did it. Did it. And I didn't realize how valuable that was. And I think that was a gift. I didn't realize that I had that mentality, or that was just a blessing that was bestowed upon me as who I am. But so that's one reason why I love, some Nike brands, and whatnot. Just do it. That's a huge part of who I am, right? But I think that the biggest part of that stemming from me as an individual is the fact that I just had to take ownership. There was an epiphany moment for me, and that was when my son was born. When my son was born, I realized that not only was I now a wife and a mother, but I was still responsible. I took on more roles, but I didn't change the role for being a sole accountable person for who I am, for who Justine was every single day. You can take on more roles, but it doesn't mean that you lost. And that's where, even, parenting, business owners, you embody the business, especially as entrepreneurs. You are not your business. Mm-mm. You are not your business. Even if you're a lifestyle brand, the business is you to a degree. But at the same time, there is still that individual person that is completely separate. And that's where a healthy boundary comes in, when you're showing up for yourself first before the business. When you put your business before yourself, or before those priorities that you were talking about, Wayne, your family, your faith, your friends, and many times your friends become business partners. So that's kind of, all great in one, right?
Yeah, of course.
But at the same time, when you put other things in front of your priorities, that's where things begin to crumble from the inside out. The outside can look great, but at the end of the day, what are we truly chasing? And that's where it comes back to your why.
Yeah, so that's the perfect question to ask, right? End of the day, what are you truly chasing? And if the first answer that pops in your mind is money or fame or, I was going to say greatness, but, greatness can be a...
Oh, well, you already got there, Wayne. You're already great.
Oh, don't even. Well, I appreciate it. But either way, if those are your first answers, right, just money and fame, that isn't your why. Then ask yourself, why do you want to be famous? Why do you want money? And a really easy exercise, I actually was speaking with a friend of mine last night, telling her about this interview that you and I were doing. And she started asking, she didn't ask me, what is my why? But she asked, what is that in general? And so I dug up this old exercise. It's called the 7 levels deep exercise. And so essentially, you start with simply saying, why do you want to be successful? And then you ask it 7 times deeper. So let me just ask you, just for example, Justine, why do you want to be successful?
Why do I want to be successful? My deepest why is for me. I'll be honest. The deepest why is for me. When I did the exercise, the first couple whys had other names and had other reasons.
Yep.
And then it came down to it, and the last sentence, I don't have the journal right next to me, but the last sentence came down to, my why is for me. And when I go to, I hope to earn heaven by living my life to honor God in all that I do. And I hope to use every drop of gifts and talents and excellence that I have developed and I have become, by leaving a legacy, by being that person in my life. And I want to go before him and be like, I have nothing left to give. I have nothing left to give. So at the very end, I'll be honest, I had to get through all those other things that were in my human experience. And that was the last one. And I didn't know it before that exercise. And so that's actually something I have my clients do too. And my friends, my family, I recommend it to anyone, because, whether your answer is, similar, different, it doesn't matter. The answer is yours. And I don't want to change that for you, because that's for you. And that's, and that's the deepest why for you. And that's the most amazing part of that, is that if it matters to you, that's what's going to fuel you through these times. That's going to fuel you to the finish line. And that's where, you just become unstoppable.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. I'm writing a note to look for an online training for everybody about this exercise that we're talking about. So if you want to figure out your why, check the link down below or the description. There'll be a link out because I think that's an amazing, amazing place to start.
I would so encourage that. Great.
Love it. So after you sort of figure out your why, right, a lot of it has to do with your values behind it. I think the second thing is almost focusing more on your day-to-day, your routine, your structure, right? Is that the direction that you usually go with clients as well? Or what's the next step in working to show up for yourself?
Super great question. So when we have our why, typically we then develop this great big vision, right? And I'm a believer in vision boards and, speaking, what it is, writing it down, all of those things. But the biggest thing is that when you do this big, grand idea, what happens? You're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And the number one thing that can happen is you do nothing. And so for me, that's where it comes into breaking that vision down into actionable steps that are actually habits, that are those schedules, like you said. That's a structure that keeps you going, whether it's one thing, two things, three things a day that you're doing that advance you from where you are to where your goal, where you're trying to go. And when that becomes momentum, and because it takes at least 21 days to start a micro habit, 90 days for there's technical terms. Sorry guys, I don't got it all down. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things that when you start with those little things, those things you won't even think about anymore. And so I do encourage morning routines, and I live and preach by the fact that I kind of am a single mom during the weeks. My husband is off working, and so it's one of those things that sometimes my mornings don't go as planned. But to keep when things like that happen, is to still keep kind of that general order for yourself, because your brain doesn't have to then be like, oh no, what's next? Oh no, what's next? I don't want to forget that, because when you're doing so many things, whether life or business, and now we've got parents at home, added stuff to your plate, you're working from home, you've got homeschooling to do, you've got meal prep for a million kids, or the cousins or whoever ended up at your house, right?
Yeah.
And so, life will happen. Life will happen. So when you can at least have just a form of that structure, I think more than schedule and in specific habits, have a structure that you can implement throughout your life, business day, and that will create a consistency that will force you to get unstuck. And
nice. A consistency to force you to get unstuck. I like you. And that will propel you forward. And so just wanted to call out once again, right? And so I want to ask you about your morning routine here. But one thing that you said that everybody needs to hear, right, is that things will happen. Every day, it's going to be impossible to have the exact same morning routine, the exact same daily routine, daily structure, right? Correct. Yes, shoot for it. I preach it so often to so many people, the importance of both their morning routine and just having your day outlined. But things happen and you need to be ready for it. And don't let that throw your whole day off, being like, oh no, I'm not in my morning routine, or I'm not, I'm looking at my planner, I'm not on track.
Yes.
You need to be able to roll with the punches, but it's still super important to have a structure. So you mentioned morning routine. Can you give us a little bit of example of maybe what yours looks like, or maybe how people can even develop their own?
Absolutely. So I guess for me, my morning routine, I am very much a morning person in the sense that I love getting started because it creates a momentum. When I can check off a few things, either mentally or on a piece of paper, and be like, wow, I've got this done, this done, this done. It just creates a great start for me. And some of the greatest people that ever lived are the people that make their bed first thing in the morning. For me, biggest thing that I try to do is get out of bed and get on my knees. That's what I do. Say my prayers. And after that, make my bed. I do some meditation. I do some reading. And I have been trying to get into journaling. That's not something that I naturally do. But it's something that I am growing so much more fond of every day.
Nice.
And so that's something that I try to do, but sometimes it just doesn't happen in that order, especially if my son wakes up first. So it's one of those things, you got to beat the baby, but it doesn't always go that way. But either way, I try to do that kind of chunk of things and ground myself first before I look at my phone, before I look at emails, before I look at messages, before I go to the outside world, I look inside first. And I think that regardless of what your actual system would be, if it's, meditation, yoga, exercise, a cold shower, regardless of what that actual setup is, the biggest thing that I think, to keep it simple, like we were talking about in one of our other conversations, Wayne, is to bring it simple and focus on you for whatever amount of time you have in the morning. I don't care if it's 2 minutes. Take 2 minutes for yourself just to be like, I'm here, I'm alive, thank you, Jesus. What am I doing today? This is what I've got going on today. This is who I am. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm ready to kill it. Let's go. And, if there aren't always days like that, like you said, Wayne, it's going to happen. Have grace with yourself. Have peace with yourself, knowing that, today's not a great day. Got my 5 minutes and move on.
And you're good to go. What really stuck out there for me is the moment you wake up, look inward before you look outward, right? This phone right here, for those of you who aren't watching the video, right? Wait to pick it up. And this is a habit that I had to break. I think it's for most of people, right? In today's generation, just day and age, I guess, when you wake up, oh, phone, what happened? Did I miss a phone call, a text message, an email?
Yep.
Try and break that. And what I actually had to do, funny story, I moved my bedside table into my closet.
Oh, wow.
And I would charge, this was at my old house probably about a year ago when I did this. But when I went to bed, I would actually go plug in my phone in my closet also, as on my bedside table. And so it was sort of for two reasons. One, it forced me to get out of bed because I still used it as an alarm. Which honestly, I would recommend to people, if you're trying to break this habit, get an alarm clock. Buy a super cheap alarm clock, get away from this thing. But either way, so it was twofold. It made me get up, so I would turn it off. But then also, the moment that I turned it off, I would leave it there. I would turn it off and I just leave plug in. And it was funny because I would literally walk over to the closet and I'd hit it and I'd look away. Because I know the moment that you hit the stop button, then you can see notifications. And so I'd hit the stop and I'm okay, all right, don't look at it, don't look at it. That way I wouldn't get distracted, right? Because it's so easy. There's so many outside forces to distract us. And so if we can take that first thing in the morning, it's going to be a lot easier than trying to do it in the middle of the day, right? Trying to pull away, which I highly recommend as well. I'm sure you do too, right? Taking moments for yourself throughout. But first thing in the morning, show up for yourself internally first before looking outward.
Absolutely.
Right? Beautiful. Is there anything else around sort of just structure and maybe routine that you think helps all around showing up for yourself maybe throughout the rest of your day?
Yeah, absolutely. So another huge thing that I know has helped me in my personal life and in my business is actually a very, very simple thing as well, is timers. I set timers because when I'm going through and creating content or so I batch my schedule. So, Monday I try to do, more focused in one area or another, or I'm doing content creation, or I'm doing, trying to record videos without going parched and losing my voice and all that kind of great stuff. I try to set timers, for engagement or different things like that too, because when I get so, I'm in amazing opportunities. I have some amazing relationships. When I get messaging, when I get encouraging people, it's really easy to lose 2.5 hours when you're just on a roll, or you're going through emails and you're I'm doing this. I got this. And so for me, I try to either break it up into 15-minute increments, or largest I stretch is probably about 45, because technically speaking, in the psychology of how our brain works, our brain can focus very well for up to 45 minutes. And then we actually start losing some of our actual productivity because we need to refresh, we need to reboot, kind of like a computer. If you don't refresh, if you don't restart, if you don't reboot, it's not going to perform as well. It just can't. And so I'm not saying you're a computer, you're 10 times, million times better than a computer, but you need to treat yourself as such. So give yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes, get up and get some water. Huge advocate of my huge water jug for those of you that are watching. I fill that all day long. And it makes a difference. But creating that little habit after 45 minutes, go fill up your water. And, things like that are just super micro changes. Very, very, very
Very
small
simple.
changes.
So do you recommend that people essentially just take almost like a stop, like a break, or are you recommending that people switch subjects, move on to something else after 45 minutes?
That's a good question. I think that depends on the individual. I think I would leave that up to the individual, because for me, when I get in the zone of, prepping a course or prepping a new challenge or something like that, for me, I think the biggest thing is if that works for you, great, but don't forget to take breathers in between, come up for water and go back down and get back at it. You're going to know yourself best. Be aware of yourself. Maybe try it out. If you don't, maybe you don't know and you're learning. That's wonderful. Give yourself a couple of opportunities to explore what that would be like for you. But for me, I think I actually thrive a little bit better when I'm doing more of the same thing at time. But that also means that I'm doing more focused work on different subjects throughout the week, where some people prefer to do, I have 20 minutes of this every day throughout my week, and then they just move on to the next subject. So it really depends on who you are and how you like to work.
Yeah, but either way,
yes,
almost batch things together, right?
Absolutely.
Make sure that you have set time, like, okay, I'm working on this thing for this long, and then either you're just going to take a break, step away, reconnect with yourself, then come back to it, or move on, depending on what's best for you.
Well said.
Love it. And so then the last piece, sort of showing up for yourself, right? After understanding your values and understanding your why, and moving on to structuring your day, having a little bit of a routine. The last thing is sort of the way that you talk to yourself, right? Absolutely. Really just internal self-talk, and it goes with mindset a lot. So what does self-talk mean to you?
Self-talk means everything to me. Self-talk means everything. Without mindset, who are you? Because truly there's two sides to any individual. And, some people refer to it as the two wolves. And, if you were going to give food to the two parts of you, the person that was, withholding everything and causing you to doubt yourself, to fear, to worry, to do all of those things that don't serve you, and the person that you're almost scared of because they're like, no, you can do this, you can do that, you can do that, and encouraging you to become that higher person, only one of those animals is going to survive. And it's one of those things for me when I go personal for myself. Again, there are some days that it just doesn't happen, and you're like, man, that was not a good self-talk day. Yeah. And the biggest thing for people to realize is self-awareness is almost even more valuable than the mindset. And the reason why I say that is because if you can catch yourself saying something that you shouldn't be saying, stop it. Yep. And I don't ever, mean it harshly to my clients, but they know I'm going to tell them, I'll be like, stop it. Did you hear what you said? Stop it. Don't say that. And I mean that with all my heart, because when words are powerful, that, and you're a leader, and the way that you come up and show up, you use certain words to empower, to embolden, to bring that life and amplify that for other business owners in the way that you impact them. And so when we're doing that for others, what does that look like for ourselves? And so when you're adopting that kind of language for other people without knowing it, you're actually repeating that language to yourself. But people forget that it should really be happening for yourself first. I believe you do it for yourself first, but it's one of those things that when we come to this topic of serving ourselves first, learn that language and ground that for yourself first, so that you can give that to your clients, so that you can give that to your family, to your loved ones, to your children. Because as you're raising children, too, it's another thing that you're actually building their fortress, you're building their foundations. What you put into them when they don't know how to build, when you're helping them build those materials, if you're giving them, crumbly cement and mortar and whatever else builds houses, wish my husband was here, that's what he does. But, when you're giving them, not sound material, that's actually something they will have to recover from. And
they're going to have to fix it down the road. Just like your house example here, right? If you build a house that is structurally not sound, down the road it's going to have to be fixed. Whereas if you can work to build it correctly from the beginning, which, of course, I don't think anybody listening to this, we're not at the beginning, right? I don't think there's any 1-year-olds or 2-year-olds that are listening in today. No. But the point of the matter being is, go ahead and do the hard work yourself, rebuild your own foundation, your own groundwork. That way you can help others to build a solid foundation as well, right?
Well, and to make the beginning today, make it day one today instead of one day, because it's really easy to be like, I'll figure that out sometime, right? Yep. Instead of saying someday, say day one today, and maybe you feel insecure about how it's all going to work out. It all takes that first step, right, Wayne? And regardless of if we're starting with a new business, getting to know someone in life, it all starts with the first day.
It so does. Before we started recording, you were saying that almost your motto is just do it, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
You're saying with Nike, of course, we're not stealing it. Don't sue us, please. But the point of the matter is, just do it. Think about today as day one, right? Don't continue saying someday, right? And also don't think you need to be perfect before you start, right? First off, there's no such thing as perfect, ever.
Agreed.
We're going to always be improving ourselves. And as long as you know that you're going to be improving yourself, and if we're talking about business, right, you're going to be improving your business, there's no harm in launching now, because you're going to keep working and building forever. Absolutely. Right? And if that is the fact, then if you're waiting to launch until you're perfect, you'll literally never launch, right?
No. Exactly. So that's where those habits come in too, those habits and systems, tying back everything that we've talked about. That's where, all of those things will hopefully develop that. But if you didn't have that groundwork, if you don't have those systems and habits, then, start with one way. Don't take on the world, please don't do that, because the world's going to swallow you whole. That's not the way to do it. Take it to the point where you can actually be consistent, because consistency is going to win every single time. Consistency will win.
Yep. Consistency, and just one bite at a time. Right. Yep. Like Absolutely. Tomorrow, don't think you need to, oh man, they talked about, I need to figure out my why and do this whole exercise. And then I need to figure out a routine. And, how about tomorrow? First thing is when you wake up, just remember, how do I feel? I need to show up for myself first. And that's
Where am I at?
Yes. Boom. That's a perfect place to start. Do nothing more.
So
You've now just gotten going, right?
So good, Wayne. You topped that off so well. So well.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. But Justine, so that is awesome. Thanks so much for your time, honestly, because this is such a subject that is so important to me. And it's almost like we connected for a reason, right? That we found each other for a reason, because this is arguably your number one most important subject as well. And so if people want to connect with you more, if they want to learn from you more, what's the best way to do that? This is that time that I want you just to give that selfish plug. Help yourself while helping others.
Thank you. Oh, yes. No, you've been so kind, Wayne. It was just truly an honor. And that's, as I'm showing up here with Wayne, I just want you to know that he's showing up consistently for you guys. So I love everything that this is about. And this is what we're encouraging you to do. If you would like to follow me, see more of my content, see more of who I am, what I'm doing, and learn from me, I would love for you to follow me on social media. You can find me on pretty much any platform at Justine Mader HQ. And I would love for you to ask questions. I would love for you to get engaged. Regardless of what you have going on in your life or business, you can't stay where you're at. You have to rise to the next level. And sometimes we don't know where to start. And that's what I do. And so I would just genuinely love to meet you, hear your story, and help you get to that next level in your life and business.
Beautiful. Justine, thanks again so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it.
Everybody, thanks again for tuning in. There we go. What an interesting rewind, right? The perspectives so much are the exact same today, and the importance of showing up for yourself, right? Focusing on your leadership skills, figuring out your why, gaining that clarity so that you can actually then afterwards show up for others. We forget to focus on ourselves, focus on our own self-improvement first, and it's nearly impossible for us to help others at the same time or at the level that we all want to be helping each other. That's the legacy that I'm working to leave on this world, is to help others become better, thus help more people. And through the ripple effect of me helping others, them helping others, those people helping others, we ripple forward and change millions, if not billions of lives. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Once again, my name is Wayne Veldsman. You can listen to the Journey to Legacy podcast. Come find us over at journeytolegacy.org. Join the community. Let's all get better together and leave this world a better place.